American Citizens Handbook, Day 3. Why three branches of government? Welcome to Spin Cycle America. I'm Coach. This isn't about political parties. This is about principles. It's about history, responsibility, freedom, and having honest conversations about the country we all live in and we all call home. So let's get started. So, the last couple of days, we've talked about we the people and the Constitution. Today, we're going to go ahead and answer another question about why did the founding fathers divide our government into three separate branches? The answer tells us a lot about how they viewed power and why that still matters today. And I want you to think about that a little bit because you can see the different political parties, the two political parties are fighting and jockeying for power. And I've been trying to figure out what happens if one party controls both power or all three branches of government and different things like that. And there's still ways for the party that's not in control to go ahead and still block the party that is in control. So there's really no fear, even if one party has what's called the Triple Crown, and I'll explain that here in just a little bit. But today's topic is a government with checks and balances. So let's go ahead and get started into that. The founders had a common concern. They believed that concentrating too much power in one person or one part of a government could threaten liberty, such as the king. Just like when the colonies were being controlled by the king of from Britain back in the day, just before we fought for our freedom in the Revolutionary War. Okay, so that's what they wanted to avoid. So instead of creating a system where one branch of government controlled everything, they divided power among three separate branches. So they divided it into legislative power, or legislative branch, I should say, which makes laws. It consists of Congress, which is divided into the House of Representatives and the Senate. Executive branch, which enforces the law. It is led by the president and the vice president and the president's cabinet. The judicial branch interprets the law. It comprises of the Supreme Court and the federal courts as well. Okay, and there's ways to prevent from packing the court too as well. You hear about certain parties wanting to pack the court. There's ways to prevent that, and I'll explain that here in just a few minutes. But there is ways to prevent from one party packing it or the other party packing it as well. So each branch has its own responsibilities. Just as importantly, each branch has limits as well. So this system is often called checks and balances. Just in case you guys weren't quite familiar with that, the purpose wasn't to make government move more quickly, and so that's why we're all out here and we're all sitting there complaining like, why is the government moving so slow? Why can't you just approve it and be done with it? Well, it's simple. Some because the government wants to make sure that everything is correct and it's done through the Constitution. So, but many of those delays are, like I said, are through the results of the system designed to require a discussion, compromise, and constitutional review. So the government is taking its time going through everything. They want to make sure that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, and that they're following the Constitution. Because if they're not following the Constitution, then you have the checks coming in, which is coming through the judicial branch, which is saying, no, you can't do that because it's not following the law. Okay, so everything is balancing out each other. The founders believed that protecting liberty was more important than making every decision quickly. So that was the other reason why it takes so long, is they want to make sure everything is done in a timely manner, but it's done correctly. Okay, so that's why you and because you're not the only one because I'm out here like, why is it taking so long for this to get passed, or what is you know what's taking them so long? They seem like they're just taking their sweet time, but in actuality, every congressman and every senate is actually people in the House and in the Senate are actually reading the Constitution in that section that they want to do, and that's why it's taking so long on that. So understanding these three branches helps us to better understand how our republic is designed to function. Okay, so I want to give you kind of a brief explanation and explain the government and how it was set up. So when different political parties control the legislative and executive branch, it basically creates a divided government. So when each branch or each party controls each one of those branches, which naturally intensifies the competition of power. It This tension is not really like a bug. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And you see the fighting going on right now between the two parties. Okay, but that's because one party doesn't control all three branches. Okay, so it is a feature explicitly designed by the framers of the Constitution to prevent any single entity from gaining absolute control. So, checks and balances. The Constitution intentionally gives both branches tools to block each other. So, example, the president can veto laws passed by Congress, and while Congress can also override vetoes controlled by government budgets and refuses to confirm presidential nominees. So there's that checks and balance. If they don't like somebody or something that the president's trying to put through, they can block those things as well. So jockeying for power is a divided government. The executive branch often uses executive orders to bypass a gridlocked Congress, while the legislative branch usually uses its oversight and investigative powers to scrutinize executive agencies. So you can see that everybody is jockeying for position and power. It's kind of like when you go to the races, they're jockeying for power, jockeying for position. It's the same thing in our government. Political polarization. That's when parties' loyalty overweighs institutional loyalty. So lawmakers are highly incentivized by their voters to fight the opposing party's president rather than negotiate, leading to high profile standoffs over budgets, debt ceilings, and judicial appointments. Okay. Um, so when one party controls both the executive branch and the legislative branch, this is known as a unified government. And this process is a little bit faster. This means that the president usually can get a lot of his stuff done and pass through the system a little bit quicker than normal. Things seem to move a little bit faster. They still have to read everything to make sure they're not stepping on their toes and whatnot. And because then it again goes through the judicial branch to make sure it's within the law. And then one of the most debated vulnerabilities in the United States or the American system of government is the fear of a triple crown. And you've heard this in horse racing. Triple crown, you win all three of the major events. Okay, well, this is the same thing. You capture control of the presidency, the Congress, and a heavily aligned Supreme Court. That's where packing the court can come in your favor, but there is a thing here, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute about how the minority party can prevent from packing the court. So yeah, you have one party right now that's probably complaining or saying, well, when they get in power, they're going to pack the court. That is almost an impossible task. So you can see that there's a lot of information on and around the Constitution. You're going to need to read it or look through it and make sure you understand it, because that's the law of the land for the most part. and it kind of gives you some power if you know what the Constitution means when people are talking and arguing with you about certain things. You say, no, the Constitution says this, and this is what they're talking about. So when you hear them talking and complaining on Capitol Hill, you at least now have an idea of what they are talking about. So the first three, let's talk about the constitutional corner. The first three articles of the Constitution establishes the three branches of government. The first branch is or the first article creates the legislative branch. The second article, Article 2, creates the executive branch, and Article 3 creates the judicial branch. So each article outlines the powers and responsibilities of that particular branch while maintaining the balance intended by the Constitution. So you may have heard. So this is where I'm talking about. Now I'm going to explain a little bit about um, one party or the other talking about packing the courts. Okay, so it's an almost impossible task, and here's why. So it's called the filibuster roadblock. Even if one party wins control of both the House and the Senate, they almost never hold a 60% or a 60 seat supermajority in the Senate. And under certain rules, the majority or the minority party can use the Senate filibuster to block any bill from passing. So even though one party controls it, so this is why our founders put simple things like this in place, so no minority or no majority or party can control everything and really kind of destroy our liberty, our government. Okay, so to pack the court, the majority party would have to completely vote to destroy or alter the filibuster rule. This is a massive political hurdle as moderate senators within the majority party often resist changing this rule, fearing what the party will do when they actually regain power. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. So it's almost impossible for a person, or I mean a group or a party, to actually do that and take control of that. So here's a little bit of history, the history minute. During the Constitutional Convention in 1787, delegates spent months debating how much power the new national government should have. Many feared creating another system that resembled the monarchy that they just fought against during the American Revolution. So they wanted to come up with something that wasn't going to be the same, okay? Because they just finished fighting a war against that, and that's what they didn't want. So the results of this came out of was the Constitution that divided authority among separate branches while also creating or allowing each branch to check the powers of the other. So each branch has the authority or the power to check and balance each branch. That structure has remained one of the defining features of the United States government. So, so here's a verse for today: plans fail for lack of counsel. So, but with many advisors, they succeed. So Proverbs uh, paragraph 15, verse 22. The founders believed that shared responsibility and accountability were important principles in government, and this verse reflects the values of seeking wisdom through counsel. So here's a question for the day for everybody. Why do you think the founders wanted power divided instead of placing it all in one branch of government? Share your thoughts and comments below, please. Coach's challenge. Today's challenge is simple. Take a few minutes and learn who your representative is in Congress, and find out who your U.S. Senator and your members of Congress, your House of Representatives are as well. Whether you agree with them or not, knowing who represents you is part of being informed citizens. So, coach's final whistle. As a coach, I have learned, or I've never expected one player to do everything. Every position has a responsibility, every coach has a role. The same is true for our government. Our founders divided power because they understood something that still matters today. When responsibility is shared, the power is limited. Liberty has a better chance to endure. The more we understand how our government works, the better prepared we are to participate in it. We are now, or many are fighting amongst ourselves, but in the end, we will prevail and come out with something workable. Right now, you can see and hear a lot of hate and finger pointing going on at Capitol Hill. My only concern with this going on is not necessarily the fighting between the two parties, but the hate that is coming out from there. Our government is not to instill the hate or violence, it is to work to overcome up with a peaceful resolution. So please think about this. The Constitution is our playbook. It's been working for centuries now. I'm Coach. Thank you for joining me here again on Spin Cycle America. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about your being responsible. It's about understanding where we came from, appreciating the freedoms we have, doing our part to leave this country better for the next generation. Y'all have a y'all take care. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Take care of each other. God bless you, your family, and God bless America, the United States. You all have an outstanding day. I'll see you on the next episode of Spin Cycle.